All right, gonna try to do a quick walkthrough of my program. Let me go ahead and start it up. All right, this is Macro Music, working title, Macro Music UI. We were spitting some stuff around today. Bacon Hero was a good favorite. Tunesmith is another one. Uh, this program is gonna be made available to everybody for free. That's the first thing I decided today. Finally decided on what we're gonna do. Uh, I'm going to provide a pro upgrade for probably like $3 or $4 that will let you use band mode, the emote mode, all the other new features I'll be adding will all be in the pro version. The free version will just keep having bugs fixed and new optimizations pushed to that engine. So that's about it. The program as is, everything will be the same except for that networking tab. That won't be there in the free version, which is what allows band mode to work. We have hotkeys. If you disable keybinds, which removes the keyboard's control over the program, you can then come in here and edit it. You just click that, and then you hit a key, and you click that to change it. Hit a key, hit update, it saves it, writes it out to the file. Disable or re-enable the hotkeys when you're done. Otherwise, you can't push pause break to get hotkeys to come on and off, or to do any of the other functionality. The plugins, we'll walk through that quickly. The program, I'll release all the code and relevant helper files once I get them all prepared. Users can write their own output plugins to output to whatever application they might want to output to. And you'll be basically handling how the keys work, which I can demonstrate really quickly. Plugins. So this is the basic plugin that you will be using to interface with. Execute note is the critical routine, and all keys up if you're using keys. If your program is just like simulating MIDI or your plugin's just simulating MIDI or simulating writing a wave file, you don't have to necessarily use this bit. But the execute note is critical. You'll have to pass in a pitch, an octave, and a duration. Uh, all these other things are kind of just helper checkers to make sure that because this particular plugin is designed to simulate output, so it's basically a macro plugin. And then we also have the importers, which is a much larger project. Let's see. My first is in up here, importer. There's the output plugin stuff. And the converter is basically just going to do some kind of parsing. So we have a parser that parses the XML file, the music XML file. Then we have a converter that converts it from music XML to musical scores, which is what my program uses. That's why these projects are separate. Go ahead and collapse that and collapse that. These are the references you'll be using in your own project to write your own plugins. Referencing plugins will give you access to the interfaces and the output simulator to attach to. And then if you choose, you'll need musical as well because that contains all the definitions for the musical scores. Start at the higher tier. So musical scores contains musical parts contains musical measures contain musical notes. MIDI is a helper class that I just decided to put in musical in case anyone else wants to use what I wrote. So these two DLLs will be what you use to write your own plugins, which are pretty easy to write. I didn't have too much trouble pulling it all out of the program. The program itself is standalone, like a lot of other of these kind of macroing programs where if you're going to do something into another application, you got to write a plugin for it, which is what I've done. The importer now is like I've discussed, it provides ways to import files into the library. So you got your library up here. The importer is what's responsible for that. You can have as many importers as you need. I don't have a limitation on that. The way the library works is it's going to check this list box, get all the instances of all your importers, and we'll apply that so when you go to do add, you'll have all of your importers available from this box. And whenever you select it, that'll affect what files you see when you browse. In my case, I'm just going to see music XML files, which is what's over here. Now I could just pick a file, which I will. We'll do again. I think it's got to come down one octave. So your configuration options here are how many parts to import. I got to work on the tooltips. There's that last 1% of the program to finish is polishing. I have to add tooltips for this. There's only one part here. It's going to show 2 markers, but there's only one part. Octave offset is how much you want to move the music so that it falls into your range of what notes you can output to. And then you can modify the tempo. You can slide it up or down to offset the tempo and speed it up or slow it down. So So we have this song here. It's falling within range. Its highest note is G5 or G4, and in the case of Final Fantasy, the highest note I can play is a C5, so that's low enough. And the lowest note is an E2, and the lowest note I can play is a C2, so that falls within range. So we'll go to measure display, which will kind of give you like an output of what the measure will be prepared to show you. It also lets you know how long it took to generate it. If it takes longer than 30 milliseconds, then you should kind of shrink this down or optimize your song so that it doesn't have 80 notes in one measure. That's the first tip I will give is that anytime you have that many notes in one measure, you're doing music wrong. There's a reason that there's time signatures. It's so it's easier to read on your eyes. And in this case, my program. So we'll hit play. We'll turn the hotkeys on, and we'll use the keyboard to do this. So if you can see over here, this is the console output window for my debugging purposes. It said pause, so it caught the pause key, which turns hotkeys on and off. We'll hit the spacebar to play, and then it will start playing. If you have the output plugin not configured but loaded, in my case, if Final Fantasy 14 was started and I had an instrument selected and I hit space, it wouldn't be playing this way. It'd be playing right through the game through keystrokes. The instrument is picked based on how you configured your sheet music. You basically have to compose these all yourself. You have to singularize notes, you have to choose which notes to kick, which ones to take, but it's way easier than trying to like do a macro. I never even bothered trying to like use any other macroing program for this purpose because I knew what I wanted to be done was going to be too tedious to do it manually. To enter in every note and the precise timing is a pain in the ass. So I wrote a program that just translates it for you. It saves you that step. It's almost done playing. Ghost notes are supported, which was what that weird note was that was so close to the other one. That was a ghost note. Those are notes that share the time from the note before them. So like if the note before that was a quarter note, I'll go something, oh yeah, quarter I guess would be easy. And the note after it is a quarter note, but it has a grace note with a half indicator on it, then it's going to steal half of its time from the note before. So it's going to turn that quarter into an eighth, or whatever it has to turn it into, so that it can share time with it. So grace notes are a pain in the ass, but I figured them out. Now that I got them figured out, it works pretty well. There's some auto octave detecting, which you can see here. It doesn't bother telling you what the lowest and highest note is. It assumes because you set the auto octaves already, you know where the lowest and highest notes are. And it's going to automatically move this chunk of music up and down to make sure all the notes will fall into the staff that you see here. Anything that's, if you see the red line where the asterisks at the top and the red line with the asterisks at the bottom, that's the lowest note. If any note falls on that staff line or lower, it can't be played via the output module. And if any note is in this space or higher, it can't be played. So it'll let you know if notes are out of range. Semicolon is the hard stop. It will just stop wherever it's at. If it's in the middle playing something, it'll just dead stop. If you hit space, it'll stop when it hits the end of the measure. So let me give an example of that. We'll use this fast one. It looks funny. If I do it twice, it'll fix itself. It's because it was still using auto octave mode. Again, little bugs I gotta sort out. All right, so I'll start. I pushed the wrong button to stop it. There we go. It'll stop right where it's at, or I can let it stop at the end. And it'll stop when it hits the end. So you see the OEM one over on the side, that was the semicolon key, and space was the spacebar. Loop, I'm not sure if it works, so I gotta check that. The stop will reset the song to 0 so that you can just start playing it again. I don't have it being updated in the measure when you click it, so I gotta add that still. Like I said, lots of little bug fixes to do. We have ways of pulling off chords, hammer-ons, hammer-offs, or pull-offs. This song has a little bit of everything in it. except for tuplets. It doesn't have any tuplets in it. I think I'm gonna play it until it hits the chords, because the chords are tricky to do with singular notes, so I had to only do it on arpeggio strums. That was a chord, and that's a chord. So I figured out ways to do chords, figured out ways to do bends. One of the bending songs that I have that I just added it, where did it go? It was Scorpions, there it is. So this has a lot of bends in it. That was a bend, that's a bend. Oh no, that was Hammer On. That's a bend. That's a bend. That was a two-step bend. So that's that bit. What else do I have to showcase? I think that's pretty much everything. These little controls over here are the same controls that are in Edit. So if you change the octaves here, which you can see they're grayed out because auto octave mode is detected, and if it detects it, there's no point in changing it because any changes you do will have no effect. It's automatically adjusting the song for you. Same thing with tempo modifier. You can modify the tempo, but you can't modify it while it's playing. You have to stop playback. I mean, you can modify it while it's playing, but it won't take effect until you start playing it again because of the way tempo generation works now. In the sheet music, if there's markers for different tempos, it'll override the song defaults, but it'll still take this tempo modifier into account. It doesn't set the tempo modifier till the player starts. So I have to tweak how that works a little bit still. Little bug tweaks. Again, if this is too wide, it'll take too long to generate a frame. So we can go like the decisive value, see 26 milliseconds. As long as you're under 30, you won't really notice it. But occasionally, like if your computer's busy, it'll take longer. Like just between clicking it once and then clicking it again, there was a 3 millisecond delay. So there's some variance depending on your computer. It's building these images from clip art basically. And then I can walk through real quick how to make a song. So this is G minor Bach. Whoops. I forgot that doesn't work. Yeah, that's stupid that none of them... I've definitely got to fix what happened there. For some reason, the hotkeys are preventing it from working in this program. So this is the piece that we'd like to import. So you can see it's got a couple parts here. It's got a guitar, pianos, bass, the instruments, the MIDI instruments. We have distortion guitar, acoustic grand, electric bass, and a drum kit. In my program, distortion is being overwritten right now because it sounds like crap. It sounds like drums basically. It does not sound like a distortion guitar at all. To import it, you would go into here. You'd pick your importer from the top combo box. There's only one importer by default, the Music XML. You'd go to Browse. You'd pick your song. I'll pick something else this time. We'll do this song. Sounds pretty cool. Parts. Pick your parts, select your octaves. Most stuff played on the guitar is right off the bat going to be -1 because the guitar is in standard E tuning. So unless your song is standard C, I think even standard C it goes down 2. So you're always going to have to come down 1. You can see C5 is the highest note that the output module can play, and F2 falls above C2, so we're good there. We'll go ahead and hit display plugin. Go ahead and get a fresh uptake. And it was that easy to add a song. Oh, I gotta turn hotkeys back on. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to switch my methods. I have 2 different ways of doing hotkeys, and this is a new way because it's faster. It's much more responsive, but it looks like it's too responsive. It hijacks all the keys from Windows, unless that one program is weird, which is possible. It could just be that one program's weird. And if you're going to use Guitar Pro to do any exporting, use Guitar Pro 5. It is the best Music XML exporter that I've found out of all of the Guitar Pro series. 6, I haven't tried 7 yet, but Guitar Pro 6, it does some weird stuff. Like, one of the big things that got me is it didn't support dynamic tempo changes. It only stores the tempo change at the beginning of a measure, and I believe at the beginning of the first measure only. It doesn't iterate it through other parts. Guitar Pro 5, if I put a tempo marker on every track and every spot in the measure, this program will catch it all because it'll export them correctly with all those markers intact. Guitar Pro 6 does not do that. Like I said, it puts it at measure 1. It doesn't do them over and over again. It's just way more complicated. I could probably do some stuff and research and figure out why it does it and figure out a way to compensate. But for now, it's just easier. Even if you have GP6, GP6 allows exporting into GP5. So export into GP5, open it up in Guitar Pro 5, and then export to Music XML. You'll get the best results that way. Because for the most part, most of the songs that you're going to find on like a tab site for Guitar profiles are going to be in GP5 or less format. It's only the stuff like usually if you're looking at a song with like 5 versions, usually every version is just a different iteration of Guitar Pro, and some get upvoted more because some people like Guitar Pro 5. So it's usually that's the one that's going to get voted the highest. It's also the format that Editor on Fire uses. Editor on Fire is for doing songs in games like Rocksmith, Rock Band, Guitar Hero. So GP5 is kind of common to that environment anyways. And you could do completely custom compositions. I mean, there's some stuff that I've done that's been pretty custom. A good example is these Splatterhouse songs. I got the core of it from a MIDI, but I just tweaked the shit out of it to really dial it in to be perfect. And the MIDI I got was from a converter that converts the video game music files from a Sega Genesis ROM rip into a MIDI. It was like there's so many converters going on there, it's nuts. But that's why I decided to make the plugins external, so that you can write a VGM reader, for example, and now you can import Sega Genesis or pretty much almost any non-Nintendo ROM, their soundtrack into this program, and then select which song you wanted. So there's some cooler stuff I'm still working on. I think those are supposed to be tuplets, and I haven't figured out which kind yet. Alright, so I'll turn off the hotkeys there, and I believe that'll be the basic walkthrough. I'll do another video real quick. Let me get the stuff set up, and we'll do some program demos of it, the output plugin working. Let's go ahead and stop this now. Stay tuned.